Hello, and welcome to each of you this evening. My name is Matt McCith.
And I'm Rachel, and we live in St. George, Utah.
We are pleased to welcome you to this special Scouting Fireside with Wayne and Christine Perry, sponsored by the Vanguard International Scouting Association. Our theme for this evening is Scouting Ahead, the Future of Scouting for Latter-day Saint Families.
We have a wonderful program planned this evening, and we hope you enjoy your time together with us. This fireside, more importantly, we hope this fireside and all other subsequent Vanguard educational programs will help each of us to be better prepared to bring the wonderful program of scouting to more Latter-day Saint young men and young women throughout our country.
For those who are not able to be with us the entire time, this program will be recorded and will be available on the vanguardscouting.org website. We've started our fireside with a favorite Scout hymn, On My Honor, which, as I recall, was sung in a General Priesthood conference in May 1977, when President Kimball was presented with Scouting's Silver World Award by the Boy Scouts of America. It's a great hymn.
The invocation tonight will be given by Carol McCarthy, a Vanguard Council representative from the Buckskin Council. After the opening prayer, we will have a special patriotic presentation. Carol.
Father, as we gather this day, we celebrate our legacy in scouting together. We thank thee for the guidance and inspiration that this program has received and the many blessings that come with it to members across the globe. We ask thy spirit to be with us, that each and every one of us may look ahead today to make a difference in the lives of our youth tomorrow. And we humbly ask these things in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
An American flag is one of the greatest symbols of pride for our country, and when that flag becomes worn, it should be retired in a proper way. I took a trip out to Cary Camp last night and met up with Boy Scout Troop 303 out of Lafayette, who is showing us how to retire an American flag on this Independence Day.
Go get more kindling. Actually, is there dead stuff over there?
They truly do grow into young men that are going to make a difference in the world.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
I feel that Boy Scouts is linked closely to military, and so it's important to honor those who have died for our country and have given that sacrifice.
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just a simple piece of colored cloth, sewn together in red, white, and blue design. A piece of cloth that itself does nothing more than hang or blow in the wind. But to many thousands of people throughout our nation's glorious history, it has stood tall, standing as a monument of freedom for all Americans. When the United States flag is in such condition that it is no longer a fitting emblem for display, the flag should be retired with all the dignity and respect befitting our nation's flag. The flag ceases to be a flag when it is cut into pieces. However, we cut away the blue star field in one piece to show that the Union should never be broken. The flag is reduced to ashes, so it is retired with dignity and cannot be disrespected.
That rainbow came out just as they were finishing their ceremony last night. Well, once every part of the flag is fully burned, the Scouts say you should extinguish the fire and bury the ashes. If you have a flag that needs to be retired, you can donate that to a local VFW or the Boy Scouts.
As I have watched that video, I have wondered, who will teach our Latter-day Saint youth to respect and care for the flag? If not the Scouts, then who? In spite of the challenges all around us, 2020 was a good year for the Vanguard International Scouting Association. Here to provide us with a report for 2020 is Mark Francis, Scout Executive of the Far East Council of the BSA in Okinawa, Japan, and former director of the Latter-day Saint Relations for the BSA, and currently the registrar for Vanguard Scouting. Mark?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much. This is such a privilege of mine to be able to join you today and share some thoughts with you. I'm really excited about scouting as a whole, worldwide, as well as scouting for Boy Scouts of America. We've got a bright future. I know we're going through some difficult times now, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and we've got some good days ahead of us. And it's exciting to see the creation, the development, and the growth of the Vanguard International Scouting Association during the last 18 months. I'm happy to report today that we have over 200 individuals who are registered with Vanguard from 26 different states. These numbers represent 134 individuals who have registered as chartered members, 29 lifetime members, and 54 annual members. Additionally, we have 25 BSA local councils with an official Vanguard Council representative. That is quite impressive considering that we just got started in 2020. Many have asked us about our international efforts. While our focus to this point has been to the establishment of a solid foundation in the United States, tonight I'm happy to report that we have recruited an individual to serve as our international chair, who will help us with our international efforts starting in January of 2022. To help us prepare for this expansion, we've already received inquiries from many different countries around the world. These countries include Japan, Philippines, Korea, Argentina, Uruguay, Chile, Colombia, Ireland, Germany, Belgium, Czech Republic, the Gambia, French Polynesia, and Nigeria. And what that means is we have Latter-day Saints who live in these countries all over the world that are involved in their scouting programs wherever they live. So we're looking forward to the opportunity to unite with them and to create some synergy through Vanguard International Scouting Association. We also have Vanguard members who are currently serving on the executive boards of the Transatlantic Council based in Belgium, in Brussels, Belgium, as well as board members of the Far East Council based in Okinawa, Japan. If you have a desire to be involved in our international efforts, please email us at info@vanguardscouting.org. That's info@vanguardscouting.org. And we would invite anybody on this call today that has interest in our international efforts to reach out to us so that we can get you involved in that committee. Additionally, we have an annual report that we produce for 2020, and you can find that on our website, which is vanguardscouting.org. Part of our growth this year was the development and introduction of the Light and Truth Award for Cub Scouts and the Vanguard Religious Award for older Scouts and registered leaders. Right now, I'm going to ask Wayne and Roma Bishop, co-chairs of our Religious Awards Committee, to speak briefly about our progress during 2020. Wayne and Roma.
Thanks, Mark. Roma and I are happy to be a part of this virtual fireside this evening. As all of you, I'm sure know, on December 31st, 2019, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints discontinued its charter partnership with the Boy Scouts of America. What you may or may not know is that at the same time, the church discontinued the religious emblems being presented by the church. The Faith in God Award for Cub Scouts and the On My Honor Award for Scouts and Leaders. To fill this void, the Vanguard International Scouting Association introduced 3 new awards in May of 2020. The Light and Truth Award for Cub Scout age boys and girls, the Vanguard Religious Award for youth, and the Adult Vanguard Religious Award. Since their introduction in May of last year, there have been over 50 of these awards already earned, and we're very proud of all of them. To learn more about these awards, go to vanguardscouting.org. Here you'll find a rotating banner. You can click on the link there or on the link above to take you to the Religious Awards page. There you'll find the requirements and the steps for earning and receiving the award, as well as a link to the requirements page for each. Here you'll find a sheet that you can print out and use as your guide for earning the award. You'll see that the awards are broken into 6 main areas: building faith and testimony, living the gospel, family relationships, missionary preparation, church history and church organization, and service. I believe that earning these awards will increase your testimony of the gospel of Jesus Christ, strengthen your relationship with your family, your friends, and with the Savior, and learn to more fully do your duty to God. Roma will now tell us a little bit more of those who have earned the award or are currently working on earning this award.
Thank you. As Wayne mentioned, we have had over 50 youth and adults earn the religious awards already. Let me just tell you some of the quotes that we have had. These are from some of the youth that have earned the Light and Truth Award. Working on the requirements has made me feel happy and helpful and closer to Heavenly Father. I feel blessed and like the Holy Ghost is inside me. I feel like I've become a better person to my family and friends. Service doesn't have to be big. Even small acts of service can make others feel happy. And then these are some of the quotes from those who have earned the Vanguard Religious Award. I've been memorizing Doctrine and Covenants, section 4. I still remember every word, and it was very hard. I feel like I've been reading the scriptures a lot more. I've become more spiritual in my life. There's a lot of good stuff on service, and I've been doing a lot of service lately to help prepare me for my mission. I've written in my journal about experiences that I've had while reading the scriptures. It was a great way to be a shining light and represent the Scout oath and law. It has helped me live the gospel and lead me closer to the Savior. Another thing that we learned from those who have already earned this award is that while the awards are earned individually, it's a big help if you have someone working on them with you, either members of your pack or troop, or in this case, 2 brothers. Aren't they cute? They're from Colorado Springs, and they motivated each other as they worked on the Light and Truth Award together. Recently, an amazing court of honor was held to honor the Scouts in Troop 1221 in Orem, Utah. 9 Eagle Scout awards were presented that night. Gary and Laura Dollar represented Vanguard at this event, and 7 Vanguard Religious Awards were also presented. The Scouts found that at least monthly check-ins helped ensure that everyone was progressing on their goals. The religious awards were also earned by 3 of the leaders. These leaders stated that they needed to be a good example to their boys, and so they earned the award along with them. Will you and your trooper pack be the next ones that we feature in a Vanguard Fireside? Good luck. These are exciting awards.
Well, thanks, Mark and Wayne and Roma, for those exciting reports. It has been a great and busy year for us here at Vanguard Scouting, and we're excited about the future of scouting for Latter-day Saints across the world. And that is our theme for this evening, Scouting Ahead, the exciting future of scouting for Latter-day Saint families. And we have a wonderful program this evening to kick off this theme. As so many things change around us, there are a couple of things that remain constant, including the principles and values of the Boy Scouts of America, the foundation principle of duty to God and duty to country, and our focus on the mission of scouting, to prepare young people to make ethical and moral choices over their lifetimes by instilling in them the values of the Scout Oath and Scout Law. Part of that stability is also the importance of the 8 methods of scouting, which make this program so unique.
There are 8 methods by which the aims of Scouting are achieved. Each is of equal importance. The ideals of Scouting are spelled out in the Scout Oath and Law. The patrol method gives each Scout an opportunity to share responsibilities, exercise good teamwork, and develop participating citizenship. The Advancement Program provides Scouts with opportunities to gain understanding, learn useful skills, and receive recognition. It is in the outdoor setting that Scouts put a variety of skills into action while having all kinds of fun. Responsible adult leaders serve as positive role models, and Scouts can learn by observing how they conduct themselves. As they follow the Scout Oath and Law, plan their activities, and progress towards their goals, Scouts grow as individuals with good character. Scouts are given repeated opportunities to learn leadership skills and put them into action while serving others. The uniform is more than just a place for the proper display of patches and badges. It gives the Scout identity in a world brotherhood who believe in the same ideals.
We hope each of you are focusing on effectively using these 8 methods of Scouting in your own work with your Scouts to help them be prepared for life.
And now, here to introduce our special fireside speakers is Charles Dahlquist, former National Commissioner of the BSA and current International Commissioner and CEO for Vanguard International Scouting Association.
Thanks, Matt and Rachel. What a great program this has been, and thanks to everybody who's participated so far. I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and one of the reasons we started with those the 8 methods of Scouting is because it's more than about the badge. It's about more than the badge, and those 8 methods help us to be able to build the young men and young women that are involved in Scouting today. So we're so honored to have Wayne and Chris Perry with us this evening to talk about the future of Scouting, and especially Scouting into the future for Latter-day Saint families. Chris and Wayne, thank you for being with us. We are so thrilled to have you here tonight. Before I make a few personal comments about Chris and Wayne, let's watch a brief video clip prepared for a dedication ceremony at the Summit Bechtel National Scout Reserve in West Virginia just a short while ago.
There's no greater investment that you can make than the Boys and Girls of America and the finest leadership program in the world, and that's the Boy Scouts of America. What we teach kids and what they learn and the fun they have and this opportunity to be a part of this wonderful complex, it's a privilege.
The Boy Scouts of America has been an important part of our family life and our 4 sons' lives for many years, ever since they were old enough to join as Cub Scouts. And it has been very important in helping us to raise our sons. I had 1 brother and 3 sisters, and so when I had 4 sons, it was a new experience, a new wild experience, and I needed help. So I turned to the Boy Scouts of America in large measure, and it has been very helpful in helping them to learn all kinds of skills that have helped them develop as young men and adult parents.
I never saw it.
Well, that about says it all. There are, however, just a couple of personal things that I'd like to say about Wayne and Chris Perry. Often when folks get involved in an organization as much as they have and at the level that they have, you don't generally see them working on the ground floor at the grassroots level. But that's not the case with Wayne and Chris Perry. They have been on countless Wood Badge staffs. Chris was the course director of the recent January 2020 Link Troop course at the Summit Bechtel National Scout Reserve, and Wayne and Chris are active in their local council. But there's even more than that. When we were in Sweden in 2011 for the World Scout Jamboree, I was in the faith and beliefs area, just working around there, and turned around, and there was Chris in her venturing uniform, picking up garbage to make the grounds respectable and in preparation for the visit of the King of Sweden. That is so typical. Just look for things that need to be done, and it doesn't matter what level it's there, they are doing it. It's unbelievable. In Japan, Chris was in charge of VIP hosting, and Wayne was bussing tables for her. It's just unbelievable to see what those two have continued to do in scouting. Also, when we were in Japan, we got an emergency call to clean the toilets there, along with the UK contingency. And sure enough, Wayne and Chris Perry were there. Actually, Wayne had his team to clean toilets. I had mine, and Chris not only had her team to clean the toilets, but she was also inspecting to make sure that Wayne and I did our job. And it was a wonderful experience. That's the kind of people that they are. And I will say one other thing, and that is scouting is alive today because of the impact and leadership of one man, and that's Wayne Perry. We don't have enough time tonight, nor would Wayne want me to go into the detail necessary to tell what happened in 2006 and 2007 organizationally and financially to ensure that the youth of the world continued to benefit from this great program of scouting, all as a result of Wayne's vision and leadership. In addition, I can't say enough about the impact that Chris and Wayne have had personally in supporting scouts to have a good scouting experience. I will just tell you that one scout came to me in tears in Sweden and said, I would like to thank those that made it possible for me to come here. My father has been sick, my mother has been without a job, and I would not have been able to come here. And he broke down then and said, without the help of these good people. And that's just what they do, quietly going about strengthening scouting at all levels. Thanks, Wayne and Chris, for all you have done to strengthen the youth of the rising generation. Now, with all that, I don't know there is anyone who can help us better understand how we got here, both from the church standpoint, discontinuing its charter partnership, and where the Boy Scouts are today. So why don't we start there? Wayne and Chris, how did we get where we are today?
Well, first, Chris and I want to say how thankful we are and how honored we are to be asked to participate in this program, and how important the Vanguard International Scout Association is. And so we're pleased to do what we can to help and to move this along. We saw a lot of your questions that you submitted, and it was clear that there was a lot of concern and discussion and thought about how we got here, how the church got to the point where it left scouting. And we thought, well, tonight you can hear from those who are directly involved in those decisions. In 2013, there was a revolt by our religious chartered, or several of our religious chartered organizations and many councils over the admission of gay youth. This came up and it resulted in something that we called the Tillerson Paradox. And Rex came up with that, and it was where we asked our youth to follow their religious leaders, but in certain of their religious leaders were advocating for allowing gay youth. So we had this inconsistency in that policy. So we had a difficult decision to make. We had many meetings with President Monson, members of the Quorum of the 12, and of course the Young Men's Presidency. And I often met in Salt Lake with Rex Tillerson. The church's main concern that they always expressed was very consistent. They wanted to be able to maintain their standards, whatever happened. In the end, the church was pleased with the wording of our 2013 resolution in admitting gay youth, and that was passed by a vote of all of the councils. Now, fast forward to 2015. Attorneys for the Boy Scouts of America said we could no longer legally sustain our policy of having no Scout employees. So no gay employees. And at that point, we'd be left with this inconsistency where you could have gay youth and gay employees, but not gay Scouters. And it was clear to us that if we did not do anything, the courts would make a decision for us. And so Robert Gates, who was my successor as national president, announced that we were considering a charter partner option just so that allowing each religious organization to set their own standards. Well, that sprung forth from Elder Holland, a very strong letter to me, where he specifically mentioned how he was concerned how a charter partner option would work and how could we protect the church's rights to keep its standards. Well, we went to work. On protecting these religious freedoms. First thing we did is we retained as counsel Scott Christensen from Hughes Hubbard. And Scott is one of the leading scholars in the country on religious liberties and protecting those. And this is probably more important for you as members of the church, we started looking at the church's talks on religious freedom. We looked at major addresses by Elder Oaks, Elder Hales, Elder Christofferson, and others. And these were not just conference talks. Many of these were legal publications and legal law reviews. You may not know this, but the church is the thought leader on religious freedom. It is carrying the ball for all religions in our country on this issue. So we went to work and we did a draft resolution. We felt that draft resolution was the finest document protecting religious freedom of any organization ever. So the BSA General Counsel, Steve McGowan, and I flew to Salt Lake, and we met with Elder Christofferson and Alexander Dishku to review our draft. Now, you may not know this, but Elder Christofferson, before he took a pay cut and became a general authority, was one of the most respected lawyers in the world, in the United States and around the world. He's an outstanding scholar. Alexander Dishku is a scholar himself. He's leading outside counsel, but he's a very influential lawyer in the religious freedom area. He represents the church in this issue everywhere. We sat down with these leaders and we said to them, we began these discussions by saying that no one has seen this draft. You are the only people who have seen this draft. Steve and I had not shared it with our fellow officers of the Boy Scouts of America. We had not shared it with the board. We did that because the church was such an important leader on religious freedom. And we said to them, if you don't like the draft, it's your fault because you basically wrote it because we took all these passages from your talks. I'd like you to show slide 1 now, Charles.
Okay. Mike, we have slide 1 there.
He's up.
There we go.
I think that what we want to do is we want to see what the BSA actually did in this resolution. I think you're going to agree that the BSA has not backed away from its duty to God and the basic tenet of its religious freedom, and it's protected our religious partners. Go ahead and do slide 2. Let's kind of look at some of these. This is excerpts from the resolution that the Boy Scouts of America passed unanimously by the officers and unanimously by the board of directors. Look at the first thing. Whereas duty to God and duty to country are core values and immutable tenets of the Boy Scouts of America. Whereas the Scout oath begins with the duty to God, and the Scout law ends with the Scout's obligation to be reverent. Scouting respects and defends the rights of others to practice their own religious beliefs without criticism. Pause for a second on that word, without criticism. That word, without criticism, came as a result of a talk by Elder Hales had made in a conference about religious freedom, and how it was not only important that you be able to practice your religion, but that others not criticize it. So we hardwired that provision. That's called the Hales provision as we discussed it in our resolution. Whereas the Boy Scouts of America recognizes the sincere religious beliefs and freedom of chartered organizations and will not require any religious chartered organization to act in any way inconsistent with that organization's mission, principles, or religious beliefs. And this is an important element. This is the one that President Monson was particularly happy about. Whereas Scouting is a youth program, and any sexual conduct, whether heterosexual or homosexual, by youth of Scouting age is contrary to the virtues of Scouting. Next slide, Charles. Yeah, this is a very complex provision here, and it's worthy of me reading, even though it's long and complicated, because it's really, frankly, profound. Matters of marriage, family, and sexuality raise profound social, moral, and theological questions. The Boy Scouts of America has always been deeply respectful of the religious and moral beliefs of its chartering organizations, including religious organizations. The Boy Scouts of America affirms that sexual relations between adults should be moral, honorable, committed, and respectful. Adult Scout leaders should reflect those values in their personal and public lives so as to be proper role models for youth. The Boy Scouts of America affirms the right of each chartering organization to reach its own religious and moral conclusions about the specific meaning and application of these values. The Boy Scouts of America further affirms the right of each chartering organization to select leaders who support these conclusions in word and deed and who best inculcate the organization's values throughout the Scouting program. The Boy Scouts of America rejects any interference with or condemnation of the diverse beliefs of chartering organizations on matters of marriage, family, and sexuality. The message of Scouting is one of toleration and respect for different religious and moral conclusions in this matter, acknowledging that reasonable minds may honorably differ. Any effort to exclude or penalize chartering organization based on their policies, their beliefs or policies regarding marriage, family, or sexuality is contrary to the Boy Scouts of America commitment to religious freedom and respect for the beliefs and convictions of its organizations. Well, I think you'd agree that that phrase, that paragraph is so good it could have been written by a member of the Quorum of the 12. And guess what? It was written by a member of the Quorum of the 12. When we met with Alexander Dishku and Elder Christofferson, they said, we like your draft, but we think it can be made better. And so they went in a room and spent about 3 hours and came back with those paragraphs. Those paragraphs were introduced into the final resolution verbatim. So I think you can see that any idea that the church was not involved in our decision-making with respect to how we got to these places is not correct. We continued to work with the church even after this resolution was passed. And we worked with the general authorities on their implementation and the follow-up documents. And I'm going to give you an example. The Scouter Code of Conduct was proposed, and we worked with Elder Holland and President Owen to specifically provide the following provisions in the Scouter Code of Conduct. I will not discuss or engage in any form of sexual conduct while engaged in scouting activities. I will refer scouts with questions regarding these topics to talk to their parents or spiritual advisor.
Great. Well,
we're not done, Charles.
Oh, you're not done. Oh, I thought you were waiting for me to field you another question.
Well, we thought we would just answer one of those questions that was in part and parcel of with those questions that you submitted to us.
Great.
Which was why, in effect, if the church was so deeply involved in the changes that the BSA made, why did the church then stop using the Scout program as its youth program? A logical segue into that question, right?
That's correct. I think that's what everybody is probably thinking right now. So
probably so. So Wayne and I, as he mentioned, we were directly told by the members of the quorum of the 12, including Elders Holland and Rasband, that the church was stopping scouting, not over any dispute with the BSA, but because the church needed a single worldwide youth program. And it's been my experience when I discuss this with friends and people in the church and people outside of the church, they do not know that the church only used the scouting program solely in the USA and Canada. So while in the other countries there were uncoordinated programs, basically every young men's president for several decades would tell you that there was really no effective youth program in other countries where there was no scouting.
yeah, I can tell you that, and they look for some type of unity. So, in fact, you can find unity in every other part of the church organization. You can go all over the world, and in everything except the youth program, you found that unity, that feeling of sameness.
And I recall we were in France. We were celebrating. What were we celebrating in France? Oh, I think it was an anniversary of Boy Scouts. And it was a scout event that was unifying people there. And it was church expats that were gathering there. So now if you look at the church today, there are almost twice the members outside the church, outside the USA, as there are inside the USA members of the church. So the members outside the outside the church, and I don't mean that, I mean outside the US and Canada has grown. And so the need for an effective worldwide program has become acute. And so the church has thus tried to meet that need by creating its own worldwide youth program in order to tailor such a program to a variety of countries throughout the world and cultures, and keep a spiritual setting for that. So we watched in this process as the church's representatives on the BSA National Executive Board, as they left the board on January 1, 2019, with sadness, but good feelings on both sides. And in what was a planned farewell, Elder Ronald A. Rasband in the October General Conference in his talk entitled, "Standing by Our Promises and Covenants," kindly stated, quote, "I learned the importance of keeping my word in my youth. One such example is when I stood at attention to recite the Scout Oath. Our association with the Boy Scouts of America as it now concludes will always be an important legacy to me and this church. To the Scouting organization, to the scores of men and women who have served diligently as Scout leaders, to the moms, real credit goes there, and to the young men who have participated in Scouting, we say thank you," unquote.
So where do we go from here? Where does Scouting go from here, as we've now seen this? The church is now focusing on its new program. But how do you see the future of Scouting, especially for Latter-day Saints?
Well, I think that the first thing we need to look at is kind of where we are today. I mean, where the church is today. You're
that me?
Yep.
Well, on March 15th, 2019, the Priesthood and Family Department of the Church stated that those who wish to participate on their own in a community-based scouting unit may do so. So the question is, why should church members continue to participate in scouting? Well, Wayne and I can think of many important reasons, and we know that the church youth program has a significant gospel-centered portion and also a place for non-church activities in its youth program. The church website for the youth program has, quote, ideas for growing in all areas of life. For example, get involved in school or community activities, learn or improve a physical skill such as sports, dance, or outdoor activities, learn or improve an artistic craft skill, learn first aid and outdoor survival skills, learn about something you are interested in, learn how to manage money wisely. If you haven't already noticed, these sound very familiar, like endorsements perhaps for merit badges.
Well, so you can see many scouting activities are within these guidelines of what the church has for youth activities. And many church activities can also count as scouting activities. Well, camping, the camping nights have to take place in a scouting environment where you can earn hiking merit badge on a church activity. You can learn bicycling, the bicycle trips you take on a bicycling trip can be on a church activity. If you give a 5-minute talk in sacrament, that counts as your communications merit badge. The service hours for first class, second class, can be a church service project. Those can be double counted. The environmental cleanup requirement for second class can occur in a non-scout outing. And a discussion of the word of wisdom in a church class would surely meet the requirement of second class scout that they participate in a school, community, or troop program on the dangers of using drugs, alcohol, and tobacco and other practices that could be harmful to their health. And keep in mind that every single scout rank now requires the scout to tell how he has done his duty to God. So the church's program is completely aligned with the scouting program, both in what the church allows or expects its youth to do, and of course, the principles of the Boy Scouts of America.
You know, you mentioned, before you mentioned something, Chris, you mentioned financial preparedness, and I'm thinking how important that is to our youth as they grow. And yet, unless they're involved in a junior achievement program that teaches finances, I can't think of any better way to learn financial management than the personal management merit badge and the experience that a young man or a young woman gets as they're working on their Eagle or just on that merit badge. Mm-hmm. And that could also be used as one of their goals in the church program.
Yeah, and we know how important that is.
Yep.
In the church program.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, did you have anything else that you wanted to talk about on that area?
We'll just keep referring to. We got a lot of Q&A yet to come. We'll
we do. Let me just mention one thing. You know, we've just been through a real tough time with 2020. And I don't know about you, but I'm here at our cabin, and on New Year's Eve, I went out on our deck and played taps. I usually play Auld Lang Syne with my trumpet, but I took my bugle and I played taps, hoping that 2020 we'd be buried at least 6 feet deep. But you know, 2020 was tough in a lot of ways, with the bankruptcy, with for the church as well as for scouting organizations that had to meet by Zoom. But how do you see these events impacting the future of scouting?
Well,
let's look into the future.
Well, we all saw, you know, this period of the COVID period has been very hard. It's been very hard on the church. It's certainly been extremely difficult in the church's youth activity program because it really didn't have a way of getting started. And so luckily there was scouting for a lot of these LDS families, and they could continue because it had the structure and way to keep going, because it's very hard to start a program up right during COVID. And the church was struggling with that. It's been good for me because as a gospel doctrine teacher, I haven't been able to have to talk or haven't been able to teach for about a year and a half now. And so that's, by the way, that's coming to an end in March, I've been told by my bishop. But honestly, it's been a very difficult time. It's difficult for the Boy Scouts of America. The retroactive application of statutes of limitations on abuse claims has been a very extremely difficult thing. I mean, you have a situation where 90% of the cases that we're talking about are over 30 years old. There are cases all the way back into the 1940s. And there's just no way that any organization can do anything when it's faced with that other than the best it can to help to compensate the victims to the best it can and move forward. We've got great leadership at the Boy Scouts of America. I'm very, very pleased to support them. They're wonderful people. They're smart people. We're going to come out of this bankruptcy and come out of this situation, frankly, pretty darn well. And we're also going to come out, I think, more focused and more leaner and more, I think, effective, because a lot of changes got made as a result of the necessity to make changes at the national level. A lot of the council, a lot of the employees at the National Council were furloughed and reduced. We then realized that we could put to work all of our volunteers. For example, we no longer have an international department employee in the Boy Scouts of America, but you sure wouldn't know it if you saw how the International Committee is functioning. It just is coming right along. So that's been entirely consistent, with kind of the idea that that really there's only 4,000 employees, and there's over 1.5 million volunteers. So we've always been dependent upon the volunteers, and the future is very bright, because it has to be bright, because there's never a time that the United States and the world needed scouting more than now.
Yeah,
and that's something why we think we're going to be just fine in the future.
Good. I've watched with the church, and we've been received reassuring comments from the brethren over the last few months. The temples have closed, but they will reopen. There were times when we held sacrament meeting in our homes. That was a wonderful opportunity, but we missed the association, and that will happen. And we're wearing masks, but one of these days we'll take them off and we'll be prudent. We will have learned a lot of things, but these things will be things of the past. And the same thing with scouting. I think we'll be better because of that. There are a couple of questions that have come up. There's some out there who still believe, going back to your opening comments, that because the church discontinued its relationship with the Boy Scouts of America, they should not continue their individual scouting adventure. And how would you respond to somebody who had a great scouting experience, in many cases for many generations, who would love to carry on that adventure for themselves and their posterity, but are hesitant to do that? They want to be so focused on following the brethren, which we all do, but they're hesitant to be involved in scouting. How would you respond to that?
Well, I think that we would say that lots of people in the church are involved in outside activities. They're involved in soccer, cheer, bugling, dance, all sorts of different activities. And so the church obviously understands that. And as Chris read you on the things that they did, they certainly continue to support that. The church supports that. So if the church acknowledges and supports our members doing outside activities, well, what better thing that's consistent with the values and the teachings of the church than a Boy Scout unit that was led by priesthood leaders and had consistent values of the church? I think that it would be probably the best example of an outside utilization of their time. Remember that it's like 70% of the kids who participate in sports stop after they're at age 17 or 13. And at that age, they spend 7.5 hours a day as a teenager on screen time. And this is screen time that doesn't relate to school and doing homework. So our competition is not the church. Our competition is screen time. And if we there's plenty of room and bandwidth for both of these activities. in a young person's life. And I think that there's no better way for a parent to spend their time and then reinforce their time than in that. It's also cheaper.
Yeah, you mentioned the importance of parents. Parents are having to make decisions as to what, with their children, what activities they are involved in. And I always laughed when people would talk to me about the cost of scouting. I said, look, I've got 5 daughters. Let me talk to you about the cost of dance. I have a couple of granddaughters who, for the amount that they paid in dance in 1 year, a scout would have been able to go to 2 jamborees and be able to fund everything else during the year and still have money over for the next jamboree the next year. It was
costumes, cheerleading costumes, and
it
the
is
fine if they miss a practice, $250 to miss one practice.
Yeah, there's something else, and that is some of our folks have wondered why the first presidency doesn't, quote, sanction this, or why the church hasn't said more about it. And that's not surprising to me for 2 reasons. Yeah. Number one, you've already mentioned that, and that is they're focused on putting this new program online all over the world, and especially in a COVID relationship. And they had a wonderful start. The Fireside with President Sister Oaks was, I don't think you could get any better than that Fireside. But the other thing is there are a lot of good activities that parents and children can get involved in. The church doesn't say do this and do that. We're going to sanction this. They expect parents to look at those organizations that are character building, that will help prepare for life. And scouting is certainly one of them, just like you said.
And they have mentioned in their on the website, was it in October of 2019, that parents may choose to enroll their children in community-based units, scout units, and that was specifically mentioned. But they don't open the doors to every organization, the doors of the church to host every organization. And so we have to compete as other organizations do, not to use the church building, but to have parents enroll their children in our program. And so it's a marketing strategy that we need to perfect, and go to parents and say, this is what we do, and this is why you need to come to us and enroll your children. And I think we have a very good chance.
That's exactly right.
Than most.
And you've referred to two documents. The one document is already there. The statement on leaders that you referred to is already on the vanguardscouting.org website. It's under leader resources, general resources. The second document which is a March 2019 document that went to priesthood leaders, will be there following this program, so that our listeners will be able to reach that. Let's switch topics just a little bit. Chris, you've got a fourth bead there, and I know that both of you have great feelings about Wood Badge. If somebody came to you and said, "Why should I go to Wood Badge?" what would you tell him?
Oh,
I mean, you got a lot of stuff to do, and you've been on a grundle of Wood Badge courses.
You're going to get me on that topic?
Absolutely. I want to hear, and so does everybody else.
Okay, well, for those who don't know, Wood Badge is actually a worldwide course. So if we go to international events, we wear our beads and people know what it means. And it was begun in 1936 by Lord Baden-Powell. And in the BSA, it is considered the most advanced leadership training course. It's evolved over time. It's become finely honed, as we found out in this latest national course that we held at the summit. So it's become got the most current leadership models in the most current course to present the latest in leadership theory, competencies, and behaviors. And we have adapted this to our Scouts BSA program so that we can, as some say very aptly, train the tall ones to serve the small ones.
Love that.
I love it. I first took Wood Badge while I was in Relief Society as a counselor. And I was so enthusiastic about it. I reported to my presidency. I said, oh, this is so great. You just have to take it yourselves, even if you're not Scout leaders, you've got to become Scout leaders, because it had so much that was applicable to that position and other situations in leadership, even parenting. The fundamental tenet of Wood Badge is servant leadership, and which we know applies to our church positions and other leadership positions and our parenting roles, especially the servant part. When the Summit Bechtel Reserve was built and it included year-round lodging, eventually, we were able to accommodate winter guests. And so we presented the unique National Winter Wood Badge course. We just got under the wire last January, a year ago so thank goodness. We didn't even know what was on the horizon. And it included 2 troops that were based on the BSA linked troop model, an all-female troop, an all-male troop linked together. That was the first time they'd ever had a Wood Badge based on that model. And they were large troops. And we had Dave Savoni, who was the course director for the male troop, and I was the course director for the female troop. And then we had a stellar staff of scouters and leaders and participants, even from all over the nation, really, and even the international participants from Great Britain, Saudi Arabia, and Kuala Lumpur. And it was interesting because Carol McCarthy, I remember at the very last meeting, she commented when we were meeting at the very last time as an all-female troop, she said, gee, this feels a lot like Relief Society. I thought that was really cute. Thank you, Carol, for that. But the men and the women appreciated the times that we met together, but we also appreciated the times that we met separately in small or larger groups, and we shared our female perspectives in our small groups together without judgment, without male judgment. Sorry, men. But we also appreciated meeting with the men and having their perspectives. So it was great. And that's the model that we have in the Boy Scouts of America now with the linked troop concept. And the men really were fun because they said, we want to meet more often with the women. And that was true of the women too. It was a great experience. We all learned a really great deal. And we learned from the international guests too. And they learned from us. It was interesting because we could compare Wood Badge courses. They said, gosh, our Wood Badge courses are not at all like this. Ours are much more dry. We don't have as much experiential fun. You know, in your Wood Badge courses, you have experiences where you are like you are the kids. You're having games and things where you're acting like the kids. And so we want to do that more in our courses. I have to say, I heartily endorse Wood Badge. If I were a new Scout leader, I wouldn't wait long to take that Wood Badge course. I wouldn't say, oh, well, that's for when I'm further along in my leadership position. I would do it as soon as I could because I believe it's that valuable for leadership training.
You know, we've had one of the problems we've always had in the church, and Charles Dahlquist, when he was young men's president, used to go around and hold little Philmonts. And I always remember he'd get up to the pulpit and he'd say, I want to talk to you about tenure for your Scout leaders. And then he'd pause and he says, 10 years is what I want you to have your Scout leaders. And we've had a problem in the church that we've had people called to positions. They take it seriously, but they, you know, they're in that position for a little while, and then they don't really get to understand the scouting program so deeply. And then they're called to another position. One of the advantages that we have now is that we have leaders who are committed to the scouting program, can take the time to spend to understand this. And frankly, in all honesty, the more the leader understands how the scouting program works, the more they realize it has to be youth driven. So you let the youth control it and let the youth run it. And so that's one of the things that we're looking forward to as the church, as these LDS centric units form, is that they'll be more frankly, properly run. Doesn't mean to say that there aren't wonderful scouting units out there in the church. I can tell you when I was a scoutmaster and when I was assistant scoutmaster and I later took over as scoutmaster, the troop that we had in our ward was just absolutely terrific. I mean, it was terrific on a spiritual level, a scouting level, lots of activities, 50 milers. It was just first rate. And there were lots and lots of really good troops like that. But again, the inconsistency of troops in the church, I think is within the church is going to be something that we'll be able to improve on.
Well, you know, it's interesting, but as a scoutmaster, I remember that that I thought we were doing pretty well, and then I went to basic training, and right after I was called, and I remember that the very first hour, and this is when we went six days and an overnighter, and the first out of the chute, they said, number one, if you're a scoutmaster, get a lawn chair. And I said, why would you get a lawn chair? They said, that's the last thing into your car, the first thing out of your car, because it reminds you to sit down and let the boys do the leading. And so I thought, that's pretty smart. So I went to Kmart and I got 2 lawn chairs, one for me and one for my senior patrol leader. And those would be the first thing that came out of my car. Then I went to Wood Badge and I thought, my golly, I wish I would have had this before. It's unbelievable training. Thank you for modeling that for us. And we are seeing a number of increases in Wood Badge. We'd encourage everybody to get involved in Wood Badge. Anything else you want to mention before I turn to a little heavier subject? I'm going to turn to a subject that we talked about 2020, and we do live in a challenging world. It was really crystal clear as we came through 2020. Parents today are faced with raising children in an environment which is overflowing with domestic and public conflict, open criticism and disrespect of each other, of teachers, of government officials, feelings of entitlement, continued weakening of the family, economic challenges, failures to communicate effectively at all levels. That's in the home and in the halls of Congress. We watched that on a national level, and increasing depression and suicide rates among our youth. How would you counsel parents facing these challenges and the impact of scouting as a third party to help them raise their children and prepare them for life? Some of our parents are just really struggling and they are looking for an answer.
Well, I would say that obviously the church is the foundation for moral and ethics and living a Christ-like life. That's the obvious answer. But if we're looking for extra church activities, you know from what we have said tonight and the way we live our lives, that scouting is the next step. It's the extra church organization that we choose as the most obvious choice to enroll our children for the support that we can give for church morals and values, and to get our kids off of TikTok, to get them off of the screens, to get them out in the great outdoors, to get them to have extra curricular activities outside of school, to have relationships, that we are of this world, we're in this world, we're of this world. We can't just sequester ourselves with only church family, relationships. We have to expand. And so Scouts will offer that. And, we just have to go back to what I always refer to when Rex Tillerson has talked about it as Secretary of State. He has seen so much when it comes to the polarization of the government and the media. And he has said, And Wayne and I firmly believe this, that we have to count on our communities and the Boy Scouts of America. He has always said that he counts on the Scout Oath and the Scout Law, which he posted in his office as CEO of
ExxonMobil.
ExxonMobil. That's what he posted in there to remind himself daily of what was important in his life and what's important in America. And so that's what we believe we should practice. And so that would be my answer to them. Go to the Scouts.
I agree. I wouldn't add any
Okay, okay, that's great. We have some questions that have come in, both from those who registered as well as those who have been here today. And we won't have time to go through all of them, but maybe we can just hit a couple of them. I will say that there are a number of questions with regard to how to recruit both Latter-day Saint youth leaders and scouting families. But I'm going to pass on those because in our little Philmont on May 21st and 22nd, we're going to be able to focus on that particular question. And because we're so short on time, I'm going to focus on some other issues. And the first one out of the chute, Chris, you mentioned you just finished as course director of the Linked Wood Badge course on the summit. Talk to us about Latter-day Saint girls in scouting. There are a lot of questions on that.
Okay, well, as I said, the first line of defense in this world is the church, right? For the values that we get in church and coming to Christ. And so, and as a former Young Women's president, I am dedicated to the church and the values in the church and church participation and the church program. I would never, ever put that second. When I was Young Women's president, though, I saw that the girls wished for activities that were on a par with the Boy Scouts that were in the ward. And so we made opportunities for them to earn money and plan and execute some high adventure activities like rafting and some camping that they weren't getting. And they were so envious of the boys. And so we made that opportunity for them and they were so grateful and they had a good time. Not all the girls wanted that. Sure. Some girls do. And so, you know, the Boy Scouts have had venturing, which has included girls for a long time. And there have been LDS girls that have been involved in that. And so though that's a choice that girls have had that are LDS, and we've known LDS leaders that have been involved in that. So we've traveled the world and we have observed many young girls at Scout events all around the world. And we've been inspired by girls that have had a great time in their scouting organizations. What happened to the, I don't know, are we still on? Okay, we lost our.
You're still on.
Oh, okay, we lost you, Charles. We've seen a gamut of girls that are very impressive. We've actually seen, honestly, maybe too much of the female leadership and not of the boy leadership. So we're aware of that problem. Actually, we want to make sure that the boys have their opportunity, which is why we like the linked troop concept, where there is a single gender troop for the Boy Scouts of America, where the girls have the single gender troop that they are a member of. And so if the girls want to join Boy Scouts of America and they want to stay in a single gender troop, that is respected in the Boy Scouts of America. So I think that's very important that the parents know that. But
you know, some of them don't understand that, and they don't understand what when I was national commissioner and we made that decision, there was a paragraph in the National Executive Committee's resolution that said we are intent on ensuring that this decision will not impact negatively the leadership experience that our young men have, because they do need that.
Yeah.
And as parents of 4 boys, we have seen the need for that, and we have wanted to protect the boys in their leadership experiences. So that is why we were very happy that the Boy Scouts protected the boys in that sense. We encourage you to go. Last Sunday, there was an honor event for the 1,000 girls who've achieved their Eagle Scout Award in a very short time, even including this past COVID-19 year. So they achieved they had like 2 years to achieve it, and they achieved their Eagle Scout Awards. And that was truly amazing for these young women to get that. And there was an event, and I believe you have been able to post that Facebook.
It will be on shortly after this program tonight. And again, it will be on the vanguardscouting.org website under leader resources, general resources.
It is truly impressive. These girls, if you are a parent and you want to have additional experiences with very, very good girls, these girls are just wonderful. They speak enthusiastically of the skills, the friendships, the worldwide friendships, indeed, their mentors, and the service, the leadership skills, just the wonderful things that they've experienced. It's truly amazing. And they flash their photos. I mean, these girls are impressive. So I encourage parents and girls to go look at that, and boys. You can see what's going on with the girls.
Good, that's great.
I think if you do look at that video, you kind of realize why we had all female troops and all male troops. We're protecting the boys. Because honestly, at that age, and the data available to the National Council when we made this decision was very, very direct, which is that young men and young women mature at different levels. And we just can't have those two, people say it's inevitable we combine. No, it's not, because we have to protect the young men, and they just come in a different way. And there's a wonderful place for young women to be alone and young men to be alone. And I think we came to the right conclusion. When we made, in 2010, a lot of people don't know this, but we had a secret committee at the national level that came together to see if we would have girls in scouting. And we did surveys, we did the same, we did focus groups, we hired Whit-Ayres polling. And we brought Dr. Michael Gurian, who's the mind of boys and the leading author on boy education. 97% of our Eagle Scout age boys said, do not allow girls into the program. Dr. Gurian said, don't do it, don't do it. Fast forward to 2017. When we made the decision to admit girls, it was because our scouting family stood up at these all around the country and said, I want this program for my daughters.
Things had changed, hadn't they?
And one young woman stood up in the national meeting and gave a speech about how she would help her brother and her father to get ready for hikes and do all of the work, and stayed home. And I mean, that girl was, she could talk a dog off a meat truck, let me tell you that. And she was impressive. But so we did studies. We went out and did this. We hired a polling company. We went out and did the same kind of thing. And in one of the greatest reversals that the polling company had ever seen, now 97% of the people wanted to do it. So it was a huge change. This occurred, like all of the changes we have made in scouting, as a result of our scouting family coming together, respectfully discussing and deciding how to make an issue that works for scouting. And I think where we've landed, we're in the best spot in the world. We have this wonderful opportunity for these young women, and we retain this wonderful opportunity for the young men. And it's going to increase the quality of Eagle Scout projects, because the boys are going to look at what the girls do and they're going to say, I have to step up my game. So
well, we've told both of them to do hard things, and they will they'll encourage and inspire each other, I think.
They will.
Yeah. So we've got a question here. Is the BSA earmarking funds now or in the future to re-engage with LDS families?
Well, I'll tell you, when we heard one of those questions about budget, church budgets, and Chris and I looked at each other and said, what church budgets? There's at the local level, there's not much money there. The answer is no. The short answer, just complete answer is no.
Well, I think it's not even a budget issue. You know, when they came out with, Chris, you mentioned the priesthood leader directive. Attached to that were some Q&As, and it became very clear from that from the get-go, it was not priesthood leaders or the church's responsibility to encourage people to get into scouting after 1/1/2020, but it was BSA, which means you and me and everybody that's on this, that's registered, for us to go out and be good scouting missionaries and to say, come and join us. It's a great program for your kids. And so there will not be funds, or there will not be even encouraging comments other than what was said that you mentioned with Elder Rasband and all of those other comments that are in that little book that you can get on the Vanguard store on Be Prepared, that has these wonderful talks over the years about the impact of scouting. But going forward, we just have to do our own. So we've got just a couple more minutes, and let's see. Let me just look at this. It says, I assume that with the current situation, we can't expect the church to verbally encourage members to support scouting any more than we can expect them to encourage members to join band, B4H, or any other specific youth organization. But how can we help parents understand that it's not against the guidance or desires of the general authorities for a family to be involved in scouting? We've partially already spoken to that. Do you have any additional comments?
Well, I mean, Chris quoted Elder Rasband's talk where he talked very kindly about the Boy Scouts. Elder Holland told Christine and I that he hoped that all of his grandchildren would become Eagle Scouts. So there's a great fondness for the scouting program within the church. It's just in today's world, first of all, legally, the church doesn't get involved in other activities because we're so litigious anymore. They couldn't advocate for Little League, or they couldn't advocate for band or anything. So I think what we're going to get is just the good feelings that people have had through all of the years of the experiences in scouting and how wonderful that is. That's about the best we can hope for. But there's no organization that has a better reserve of goodwill for scouting than the church.
Yeah, that's exactly right. There's a question here. How is scouting doing on a national level? No NOAC, no Jamboree, make me worried.
Well, look, it's a real problem. We would have held those, but of course we're a prisoner of the state governments, and we've had the summit has been allowed because it's West Virginia, and West Virginia's actually done a very, very good job on its COVID responses, and it has opened up the summit. The summit is fully running, and so that's a blessing. We had, as you know, the governor of New Mexico shut down Philmont, so that really hurt us. And NOAC for those of you that are not aware of it, that's a National Order of Arrow Conference where we bring about 20,000 kids to a university in the Midwest, and they stay in university housing. Well, universities aren't letting people in their housing. So, but it's going to come. We're planning for the Jamboree. The next Jamboree will slide over to 2023. There's already deep into planning for that. It hasn't been announced yet. I'll give you an inside information, but we're going to have a Jamboree in 2023, even though that runs up against the World Scout Jamboree in Korea. But we felt that we had to let our kids get a chance to have that Jamboree experience before they age out in scouting. And we probably thought that not that many people would be going to Korea, because a lot of them had been to Japan, and it's a hot, humid environment.
Wayne, there may be some that are thinking, how could we hold two Jamborees, a World Jamboree and a National Jamboree on the same year? You may talk about the different numbers that come to each of those from the Boy Scouts of America. I think that's important.
And we only send about like 8,000 kids to a World Jamboree, and that's for a big one. That's Sweden or England.
We had 1,500 to Japan.
Right, and it drops dramatically, and so we might end up sending the same amount to Korea. But we're talking, we had, when in the United States, the World Jamboree, we had 45,000 kids from around the world, and the reason we didn't have 55,000 kids is we ran out of space, not out of applicants. We realized we could not have any more kids. And one of the reasons that was is because that was the first World Jamboree that had both the normal experiences that a scout would have at Jamboree, plus the high adventure. And they were thrilled to death, these young kids from around the world, to do the high adventure. But we had to limit the number of scouts on the site because otherwise the lines would get too long. Kids were getting up at 4 a.m. to go in line for the big zip, for the zip line across the lake. They were showing up at 5 a.m. in huge lines for the pistol opportunity to shoot pistols from all these countries that are not quite as firearms friendly as the Boy Scouts. And it was, it was hands down considered the best World Jamboree ever. So
I remember that the Swedes were a little worried about their kids going there, and yet all the Swedish scouts were lined up to be able to do that. It was really a fun experience.
It was a tremendous experience. The kids.
Wayne, we're almost out of time, but before I ask you a final question, talk just a little bit more about what you've already started here, and that is talk about the summit experience, because I think it is life-changing. There's just something about that venue.
People forget, but we were told by Bob Gates that we would have never been able to use Fort AP Hill again after we used it in 2005. And not because of any political issue, but because of sequester, oddly. And so we had to have a new Jamboree site. When you build a new Jamboree site, it's foolish to try and use something that you use every 4 years. And so we decided we needed to have a high adventure base that was closer to the vast numbers of population, because it's a huge percentage of the US population is within a 6-hour drive of the summit in West Virginia. We also decided that if, one of the things the Boy Scouts does better than any other organization is leadership training. We are the leaders in youth leadership training. And so we thought we would have a leadership situation there, the Thomas S. Monson's Leadership Excellence Complex. And so we started out modestly to do it. And every time we got great support. To date, we've raised $635 million in commitments to build this facility. That's the largest commitment of any youth or serving organization in the history of the world. It is a Disneyland for young people, and it will be increasingly used by not only the Boy Scouts, but it's as it is currently, it's used by Girl Scouts, 4-H. We would expect that the church would use it for its leadership, some of its events there. So Chris and I, that's our primary jobs in scouting now, is to work with the summit. And it's been an extraordinary experience because we think it's amazing. It's a change. It's the laboratory for everywhere else. And so we can do things there and then roll them out into other places. I mean, a lot of places, you see zip lines. For those of you that, if you ever went to Fire Mountain Scout Camp and up north of Seattle, they went to the summit and they said, wow, we like zip lines. We could do this across this lake. We had people come back and say, we didn't know you could have pistol ranges. We didn't know you could shoot black rifles. We didn't know you could do these things. We didn't know you could have BMX tracks there. The BMX tracks at that facility are very aggressive. When we started out, the doctor in charge of the 2013 Jamboree said to me, Wayne, you either tone down these BMX courses or you give me a second x-ray machine. And I said, you got your second x-ray machine. And you know what the doctor said? I couldn't agree more.
The other thing is you indicated something that was important to me, and that is we're going to have so many broken bones during this time. But the important thing was it was less broken bones that 45,000 kids of that age would have had if they were at home, because scouts have adventure, but they do it in a safe way.
They do it in a safe way, and the most dangerous place for a young man is in a car with another young man.
Yeah, that's really true.
And in fact, it's very, very dangerous. And so, yes, it's true. And we all need to be, parents have gotten to the point where any risk is bad, and they need to step back and say, what's the really greater risk? Is 7.5 hours a day screen time a greater risk than maybe a sprained ankle on a scout hike? I mean, you need to step back and look at really what's important for your children. Getting outdoors, understanding these leadership skills. You know,
Well,
those are
I know it's been worthwhile in the Great Salt Lake Council, now the Crossroads of America or Crossroads of the West Council. We've taken 160 plus the leaders there, or 144 plus 16 leaders there for the last number of jamborees, and it has been well worth the effort. So we're almost out of time, but one last question, and that is, with all of these challenges, it's not all fun and games. There have been highs and lows. What keeps the two of you in scouting?
Go ahead.
Oh, what keeps us in scouting? Well, it's a lifestyle. It really is. I mean, we just, out of all the organizations that we could volunteer for, it's the most rewarding because we see the fruits of what we do, and it's the kids and how they progress, and we see the success stories. It's just wonderful.
You know, as a businessman, I look on return on investment, on my time, our contributions. There is no organization that gives you a better ROI than the Boy Scouts of America.
That's a great comment. Just a great comment. Well, Wayne and Chris, thank you very much for being with us here today. I know how busy you are and all of the things that you're involved in. I also personally know that there's no one that has a greater impact and is more committed to impact the lives of the rising generation. And I think we're all better prepared to be able to do that because of our opportunity of being here. Thank you for your wisdom and your comments and your leadership, and for the love that you give to the rising generation. They are well worth it. And I loved your comments on return on investment. In your honor, we're awarding a special Vanguard Scouting campership to allow 2 scouts from the San Diego Imperial Council to go to Scout Camp this year, who otherwise would not have been able to attend. And so we are grateful for 2 more scouts that will be able to have this wonderful experience of scouting during the summer because of your efforts. So thank you again for all that you have done, and God bless you as you go forward. Matt and Rachel, we'll turn it back to you to close the fireside.
Well, thanks to all those who have participated in this virtual fireside this evening, and especially thanks to Wayne and Chris Perry.
Unfortunately, because of COVID-19, we have had to cancel our program at the Philmont Training Center for 2021, but we have already scheduled our training at Philmont for July 2nd through the 9th, 2022. Put that on your calendars. Therefore, our Vanguard Vision Little Philmont training will again be held this year virtually on May 21st through 22nd. We have had a wonderful program planned and can't wait for you to join us. You can find more information about the program on our website at vanguardscouting.org.
Yes, we are looking forward to that next program, which will be more of a training format in May. And we look forward to connecting with all of you again. It's been very fun to watch the chat and see everyone involved. I'll put a quick plug in. If you have an inspiring story about your scouting experience, we have a segment on our newsletter called Still Scouting. If you would like to share your Still Scouting story with the rest of us, please submit it to news@vanguardscouting.org. We will now be favored with a special rendition by a Latter-day Saint Scout Choir from the 2013 BSA National Annual Meeting. Following that musical number, our benediction will be given by Ty Lagerberg, a Vanguard Council representative from the Crossroads of the West Council.
I am a child of God. Our most kind and gracious Heavenly Father, we are so grateful to be able to gather together tonight to discuss the scouting program as it goes forth. For we have it in our hearts, and we pray that it may stay there. We're grateful for the Lord Baden-Powell and his vision and his spirit to start this program many years ago across the sea. We're grateful for the evolution that it's had. We're grateful that we still have the opportunity that our sons and our grandsons, and now our daughters and our granddaughters, can experience this wonderful program. We ask a blessing that those who have attended tonight can catch the vision that Vanguard has, that we will carry this forth through our communities, through our wards, and that we can continue to use this program to strengthen the youth in the church and without, and that we may use it to the best of our ability. We pray for thy Spirit to guide us, that we may do so, and we ask these blessings to be upon us now and send us forth in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.